press record and let's do episode 2.
Oh, cool. You fixed your camera. I was about to suggest that.
Um, oh, how so? Because I was up here.
You were way down.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that I changed it. I think I sat differently because I was probably down here because I wasn't standing up, sitting up properly. I'm thinking I think I can dive right into low code, no code, and vibe coding for this episode is talk about those because those are such big, cool things right now. And I think those are I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of problems with that too. And I think this is where I think it's an opportunity. Like every other problem that's out there, I think we have opportunities here on how we can help people out. And even if we're trying to do it ourselves, how we can help ourselves out so we don't end up getting bit by doing an MVP that really is more of like a proof of concept. It's really more of a one-off, and that you end up doing an MVP and then you have to rewrite the entire MVP. Sound good?
Yeah, I was just quickly refreshing my memory on low code because no code and vibe code I've been dealing with a lot, but I keep forgetting about low code.
Let me do this. I'll get some officials here. So no code, low code. Won't hurt to, yeah, wouldn't hurt to actually put those definitions in as we do it.
Okay, yeah. So low code is basically where we're using tools. What was that tool? Kind of like Figma is becoming a low code because you can do wireframes and that and add code behind them to make them clickable demos.
Yeah, to some extent. Usually that's like, yeah, the no code, low code stuff will do some of that. Usually it's more like visual. I guess I typically think of it as more like visual graphical interfaces coding. Although I guess you can do that with no code, but usually there's some, yeah, you're plugging the stuff in and you're throwing a little scripting or something behind the scenes into it. But and it's really that's why I sort of combine low code, no code. I combine, and most people I think do sort of combine those two because it's like not worth distinguishing between the two. And then of course, vibe coding is a little, is different a little bit. Yeah. So here's in short from AI: no code is no coding, visual only; low code, some coding, visual plus code extensions; and then of course, vibe coding is AI assisted, intent driven coding. It would even allow, it's even offering to create a whole podcast mini-series outline under building better buzzwords. Each one is an episode. We're not going to do an episode per. All right. Well, that sounds good. So let's just dive right into this one so we can get going, get on with our day. A little three, two, one. Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing season 26 of Building Better Developers, the Developreneur podcast. The topic, the focus this time around is building better foundations. This episode, we're going to tackle low code, no code, and vibe coding. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how they have a better foundation in these non-coding kinds of things, I guess we'll call them. But before we do that, I need to introduce myself. My name is Rob Broadhead. I am one of the founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developer podcast site, and all the stuff that goes with it, matter of fact. But I'm also the founder of RB Consulting, where we're basically a boutique consulting firm. We help companies cut IT costs. We sit down with you, through your business and your processes and your approach, and then we get to know your business using our background and and a technology agnostic approach. We're not going to like sell you a specific tool or anything else. We're going to look at the tools that are out there and help you craft a roadmap that you can go with, and either you can run with it or we can help you implement that roadmap to make your business better as well. And that includes things moving faster, higher quality, and of course, a better bottom line, reducing your IT costs in particular, which is one of your bigger areas. You can check us out at rb-sns.com. We also have a free assessment you can take out there, about 10 minutes. You can walk through some questions and it's going to give you some ideas of where to go, very basic roadmap stuff. Or you can also, while you're there, you can actually engage us and have us spend a couple hours with you. We'll spend an hour up front. We spend a few hours, we go away, we take all of the answers to your questions, we craft that roadmap we talk about, and then we come back and spend an hour with you walking through that roadmap and how you can implement it. Again, all that you can check out at rb-sns.com. Good thing, bad thing. Uh, Boy, this is one. Here's one that's like a, I don't know if it's a good or bad will be part of this. So I'll just combine these two into one story. So we are running low on tea in one of our where we were and then actually running low on tea, and I think we are out of some coffee or something like that. So my wife was like, you know what, I'm in like a tea mood. I'm going to try some green tea. So the bad thing was is she was down to like just grabbing like these like individual tea bags and stuff like that we had left. It's not like we had anything that was like our top end stuff. It was sort of the extras. So that was sort of bad. The good thing, I think, is that she found one she really, really liked. The bad part about that is now I have to go find more of that and make sure that we have that for the next time she's in a green tea mood. So watch out. Sometimes you get what you want. Sometimes it like you should have thought a little bit more before you asked that question. But I have not thought near enough. So I'm just going to throw it to the wolves, throw it out there to the wind, whatever it is. I am casting all my cares aside and I have Michael introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Mike Meloche. I'm one of the co-founders of Building Better Developers, also known as Developer. I'm also the owner and founder of Envision QA. We help businesses take back control with customer software that builds around the needs, not the other way around. So we work on helping you by focusing on great service, smart solutions, and a rock solid quality. We build tools that replace frustrating systems, streamline operations, and are fully tested to work right the first time. At Envision QA, we combine development and quality assurance to give you software that you can trust and support you can count on. Check us out at envisionqa.com. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing. Well, I guess it's a mix. I'll combine it. It's good and bad. So I've been working very hard to get off coffee and really cut back on my caffeine intake. The problem I have uncovered with that, well, I'm feeling better. My peaks and valleys of my focus have really dropped. So I have had to slowly increase my caffeine intake a little bit. But unfortunately, tea just doesn't do it. It's like a little too much tea. The flavor's not quite right. It just doesn't taste right to me. So, and coffee upsets my stomach. So I'm dabbling again briefly, back within energy drinks, and Monster gives me the jitters. I can't do Red Bull because that just gives me migraines. So my wife was telling me to check out this new drink that keeps popping up on NASCAR called Celsius. And I've been trying that recently. And one a day, if I drink like half the can in the morning and then half the can at lunch, seems to keep me focused all day. And I can just stay on decaf tea the rest of the day. And it seems to keep me more steady and focused. So the good and bad is the good, I'm focused again. The bad is I am getting more caffeine again, but it seems to be at a stable rate that my body seems to be able to handle better.
The challenges of properly medicating ourselves. So, speaking of properly medicating, I don't know if this is really good segue, but anyways, we're going to dive right into no code, low code, and vibe coding. And first, let me give, I want to go with a definition of each of these just because again, they are buzzy as how they are. As we're getting into it and we talk about these, and this could actually spill into a second episode, but I want to give us a foundation in building better foundations for what this discussion is. So no code is, and this, I threw it out to AI to get me some stuff off of the internet, and it's got some pretty decent little definition. So no code, building software applications using only visual interfaces, pre-built components, and configuration with little or no traditional programming. Low code is application development that combines visual tools, as we had the no code, with some hand coding, enabling faster delivery while allowing custom extensions. And then vibe coding is using AI assistants like GitHub's Copilot, ChatGPT, Replit Ghostwriter, and some of these, lots of others that are out there to generate code interactively, guided more by natural language and intent than by strict syntax. And I'll give like the sort of the in short that it gave us, which I think is pretty good. No code is no coding, purely visual. Low code is some coding, visual plus code extensions. And vibe coding is AI assisted intent driven coding. what I want to talk about with these is a little bit like when they come into play, but a little bit more about like what to be aware of when you're doing it. So I often see I sort of see a lot of the lines being blurred between no code and low code because the low code part of it, there are a lot of people that I know that are using essentially they're using low code tools as no code, and then they'll maybe use AI or they'll maybe do a couple of searches or something like that to find like the little script that they need. They're really effectively it's no code. It really is. It's just and by this it's thinking about like you can put together a website that is like create a page, create a page, create a page, create a page. The pages are they can be interactive, so they can be doing things like maybe send an email or pull data from somewhere, things like that, especially if you start getting into Zapier and if this and that and some of those kinds of sites that do those automations. But you're really, the coding you're doing is really just like pointing and clicking. You're saying, if I click this button, then you drag and drop or something like that to say, okay, well, this is the screen I want it to go to, or this is the function that I want it to execute. I'm not actually writing code other than writing some, maybe I write, name some of my pages and stuff like that. That's it. It's not code, it's more naming. And it's much more like a Word document or a PowerPoint, slide or pages or presentations or Keynote or whatever it is, whatever you want to, whatever your tool is. Um, and then low code, you're doing that, but then yes, there are going to be, now you're doing something a little more complex. So you're clicking a button, but you're actually writing some script some code that says, oh, open this page, but also send this email out or do this thing. Usually you're getting a little more complicated and you can, like everything, the more that a system does for you, the harder it is going to be, either the less you can do for yourself or the harder it's going to be to do the things that you want to do. These things are going to drive you in a certain direction. So if you're going no code, um, I think the biggest thing to consider is look at the tool you're using and does it typically get used to generate a product or a solution like you're looking to do. And really, honestly, I think if you're using no code and even low code, it should almost always be for a proof of concept. You could do an MVP. I actually have I did something with the customer where it was, we made it low code because we had a couple of coding type areas we did, and we were able to connect to some systems and stuff like that. And so it was basically the front end, the marketing part, the landing pages and stuff like that. It was all no code essentially. Looks great. Looks awesome. He's got all his little controls. He put all his stuff in, and it looks like you can't tell that it's a no code site. It's a very pretty website. It's got functionality that you would expect from that kind of a website. Once you get into any of the real work, then it does become a little more complicated. Now that is not like it's getting better. There's things like shoot, I just lost the name. Like Airtable, some of those kinds of places, some of those kinds of tools that now there's a lot of integrations with those. So now you do have like a database back end that you can use. And there's some other things out there that you can use that you can actually store data. You can move stuff across your applications. The no code is actually getting, I say, pretty solid. There are some, they're like you can build solutions with it. It's just growing the solution, I think, is where your problem may lie. Before I dive into that, I'll get your thoughts on the overall thoughts on those areas. And I
Yeah,
didn't touch vibe coding, so I left that one wide open for you.
yeah. Well, we may pick that up as like a cross back and forth, but you know, just going into low code, no code, to me, the only time really it makes sense to do no code is just if you have static websites. If you have a static application with just point click, take you through the application, there's no real meat to the application. It's just an informative site that you just have navigation. Basically, you have an online marketing tool, a big brochure with clickable links that takes you through things. Low code to me is more for when you have a little more integration within your application. You may have to connect it to, say, like an email provider, payment system. So you have to have some type of code behind the scenes that does a little bit of additional work within the applications. In fact, I almost think of Excel as low code because you have Excel, which is the application itself, but then you can actually write macros or even functions within each cell to do calculations within uh, numeric calculations. That's actual coding, people. That's not just writing formulas. Um, it's called VB Code, or it was called VB Code years ago. There's actual code behind the scenes. It just looks like math. It's very cool how Microsoft did it. It's just one of the biggest gripes and frustrations I have with these particular models is you are stuck with the tool that you go with. 99% of, I won't say 100%, but almost 99% of these tools that do low code and no code do not let you take ownership of your code. You have to use the tools to publish them. You have to use the tools to maintain them. You can sometimes export the code to like pure HTML, JavaScript, whatever language you need, but that comes at a cost. And then the other cost of that is you don't know how that works because you did all this in a UI. So unless you can ingest that into a new tool to do no code, low code, you're kind of stuck. Now you got to go find someone to actually maintain your application. So while these are very quick to get to market, they can become costly down the road if those tools go away. So you just have to be very careful with what you pick to kind of build these applications using low code or no code. So I will start the vibe code conversation now, and then I'll pass it back to you. So vibe code is an interesting concept or an interesting way of coding now that has come around because of AI. And well, it's useful. It is very dangerous because AI is not at a point where we really need to be relying on it to write our code. It depending upon which tool. There are some very good coding tools out there that give you very precise code snippets because there's enough examples of that on the web that they've stolen it and can regurgitate it. But as far as logically building you an application, it's going to give you piecemeal based on what you're asking. So it's like, hey, build me a login screen. Okay, so it's going to go build you a basic login screen. There's enough of those out there that it can pull in and put something together. However, the logic behind the scenes for the login screen is going to vary. Are you going to get the right security for your authentication, for your password authentication? These are things that if you're vibe coding, if you haven't written applications before, you're not going to know to do this. And you could essentially create an application that is full of security holes. Or validation may not work at all. It may make it look like it's working, but you have essentially hard coded values or very insecure protocols going on when you're logging in. But it works. You build the application. Hey, I have a screen. I have a backend piece. It works. It lets me log in. It the problem I guess the biggest problem I have with Vibe code is it gives you a false sense that you are writing code, a false sense that you are building applications, that you know what you're doing. It will give you something that works. It is good at prototyping. I will say that. It is very good to get something that is prototype that is functional, but it is probably not enterprise level or even publication level, like to sell it to someone immediately out of the gate. It may look like it works, but I would really break that code down, have someone that professionally knows how to write code go through it and make sure that it's solid before you go to market.
Yeah, I do want to drop back to no code, low code real quick because I do think that's what one of the things there is that, yeah, Excel, Word, uh, PowerPoint, all those, because you do have Visual Basic for applications underneath, you could actually consider those as low code or actually all of the above. They could be no code where you're basically just writing your stuff, doing your thing. Low code where you're just doing a little bit here and there, like your formulas within your cells in Excel. But then you can do full blown coding, which is you can get back in there, you can rewrite huge portions of it. I would not recommend it because if you're having to rewrite, it's not built to be. There are better ways probably for you to build an application and build it all, do everything in Excel and then try to like under the covers start adding all your coding in, which is one of the things that you need to be concerned with is where is this going to go? If it's a one-off, if you're doing something that is like, I've got this, I'm never going to really change it, I'm not going to do any enhancements, awesome. You can, if it does it in no code or low code, go for it. But if it's going to have to grow, if you're going to have multiple users, if you're going to need to worry about security, or if you're going to have to worry about like all the things that applications need to worry about, then maybe you need to think about a different approach or get something out there and say, okay, here we go. This will do for now, but then use that maybe as a almost like as a requirements documents and say, okay, now let's go build this for real, in a real system. And that's really where I think the vibe coding. I had a conversation the other day that the guy like just nailed it. As he says, he was talking about his experience with AI, and he said I think of it as like a junior or mid-level employee is sort of what AI is. And I really, the more I've thought about that and the way I've become accustomed to using AI is almost exactly like that. Is it's very much um, probably more a junior level than even a mid-level developer because it's like I have to be very specific on what I ask. I do like if I'm doing coding, like vibe coding, I guess is what I'm doing, is I'll have it shoot some stuff out, but I ended up essentially doing immediately a code review, and then either I'll just go fix it, or there's been more than a few times where it's like you can see that it has a systemic issue throughout the code it generated, and I can say, wait a minute, this is wrong, fix this, change that. Uh, the simplest things like versions. It is amazing how often you will get code that is like on a version of your environment that it just won't work. I've had all kinds of fun times trying to get AI to understand the difference between in the Salesforce environments, where they're using the old UI or the new UI and how you're actually coding, especially anything that gives you multiple ways to do it, which is most general languages, you're gonna have some fun nailing that down. Java, there's so many different like if you wanted to write something that connects to a database, there's a couple different ways you can do it, and you have to be very specific on what you want and what version you're dealing with. Python, there's a lot of different ways to build an API with Python, and you got to make sure that you're dealing with it properly. Like, there's lots of different ways to do scrapers, to do even like this most simple stuff like login and authentication. So I think if you treat it like a child, basically, and that you're gonna like realize that you're gonna have to be very specific, trust but verify, maybe even don't trust and verify, and take a look at it and be. I think the biggest thing here is if you're gonna use any of these things, you need to spend the time to understand what it's doing because then if something goes wrong or if you need to expand upon it later, you at least know what's going on there. You know where to look. If you just throw something together real quick and then it's like, oh, we have this new feature we need to add, you didn't really spend that much time. You weren't really mentally engaged doing it. Now, maybe you were from a visual point of view, but what's actually going on underneath the covers or behind the scenes may be where you're going to miss out. And I think a key to all of these is like probably the biggest thing to think about when you're going through these is really is like, does it scale? Is this something that really actually works? That the like Michael implied, it's like it works, but in quotes, because air quotes, because it's yes, it does it, but it doesn't really do it correctly. It may not be secure. It may not be something that supports growth. I don't know how many times I've run into people that have used some of these systems to do data, to track their data. And then as stuff grows, suddenly the thing becomes just ridiculously slow because they're using a system that was not built for thousands, 10,000s, or millions of records. It was built to do something quick and dirty with 20 records, just like a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet. You can sit there and a lot of times, depending on what you can look at 20 or 30 lines at a time. You can get some basic information. If you're having to move around all the time in a spreadsheet that's got 50,000 rows in it, it's gonna be slow and ponderous. Even using searches and stuff like that, it's gonna take it a sec. And so you need to think about where this is going to go. And I think that's one of the things that we do this so often. It's like, can't just think about what is it that you need today. Let's think about what happens tomorrow, 6 months from now, particularly if this is like a really great solution that a lot of people are going to use, what happens when you suddenly get 10,000 customers at your door? Are you going to be able to serve them? Thoughts?
Yes, I'll tack this on to that. So as you're doing your vibe coding, I tend to use AI a little more as like a virtual assistant. Yes, I use it for Google searches as well. I know that's dating myself because you see all the things, your parents are using AI for Google search. Essentially, if you really understand software development, the problem we run into building code is it's not so much we don't know what tool or what algorithm or what library to use. The problem is when did we last use that? Was that a year ago, 5 years ago, a decade ago? Sometimes we just have to throw something in quick and say, hey, how do I do this? Oh, yeah, I remember this now. Okay, and I go grab what I need and move on. The trick here, though, especially with vibe coding, is don't rely on just one language model. Use multiple language models till you get comfortable finding the one that really resonates for what you're trying to do. ChatGPT seems to be really good with Python and PHP. Java, at times, it is way off. Copilot's getting a little bit better. Claude's started dabbling in code. It's okay. Weaverly, which was Codium, that one's actually pretty solid. Tab 9 is another good one. They've actually been around for a while. I like them more because before they went AI, they were a very good search tool. So you could just go into their application, type like Spring Boot, and here's a whole bunch of like Spring Boot little functions on how to do different things in Spring Boot. And you could type in like Java string, and it would give you all these examples of how to use the different versions of Java string. So those to me are still more beneficial even than just a flat out AI for vibe coding. I like sites that give you code examples based on what you're trying to build. So just food for thought on that. Make sure you test multiple tools and then make sure you still verify. Stack Overflow, Tab 9. Just do some standard Google search to make sure that what you're getting is right.
Yeah, I think that's like so many of these things. I think that's part of it is playing around with those tools because they do have different strengths and weaknesses, and they are all evolving slightly different paces. And so I think it's worth it to see what works best with you and how you utilize it. I do recommend highly starting to play around with those things. Part of the reason I use all these tools, and I randomly will pick a different AI engine probably every time as a Google search. I use it as my search engine a lot just to start getting used to like what do you get from these varying places. I use Perplexity all the time now instead of on my phone. I've got it there, so I use it instead of like my browser window and just popping something up there. I use ChatGPT on a regular basis. I use Google Gemini all the time. I've got like windows up with those because I use those for my searches. I use those to do some of the things Michael mentioned, where it's like, hey, just do this real quick. I will use it. I also use it not just for searches. I do use it for quick code cleanups. I'll do things like take this and refactor it so that this variable gets pulled out, or rename all of these things so that they are it's built out like this. Now it's this name or something like that. There's some things like that and I'll even like have it occasionally. I'll throw stuff at it and be like, hey, is there would there be a better way to do this? Or what do you think this does? Or things like that. The way to do it though is keep it in, it goes back to the idea of, in all of these, I think the best way is think of it as a very junior, a junior, maybe mid-level employee, and keep it small, bite-sized chunks. That allows you to really focus on like, let's get this thing done. And I think it helps you because then you're not going to be overwhelmed by there's this whole big solution and I don't really know what it is. It's going to be this big solution, but you've walked your way through each of those things. So like, I know a lot of people, I see so many people like say, okay, well, this is the thing I want to do. And you'll tell AI and you'll give it like 50 steps. And these are all the things it needs. And these are all the requirements. Well, if you haven't really walked through the requirements individually, and it's going to give you a mess of stuff. And it may even drop some. It does that all the time. I'll give it 10 things to do and it'll do five. Yeah, it's like you need to instead break it down piece by piece and go, okay, I need you to do this, and then verify that it's done it. And then I need you to do that and verify that you've done it. And it can be, yes, it can be a little bit time consuming, but it is. It's just like a junior employee. It's just like a virtual assistant. I really wonder if virtual assistants will essentially disappear because it's cheaper, easier, faster to do it with an AI system than it is with a virtual assistant. And honestly, you're going to get the I think actually I get better results out of AI results than I do out of some of the virtual assistant groups that I've dealt with over the years. And it's just it's and part of it is because the turnaround is so fast. You can just like go boom, 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 boom. You can have a conversation and you can get something refined very, very quickly. And it's not a the last thing I'll say on this one before as we're wrapping this episode is it's not a threat to your or should not be a threat to your career or anything like that because all this is doing is it's doing the gathering. It is being your hands and feet. You should still be driving it. You should be understanding that you're building this solution, that you're using all pulling all these pieces together and turning it into something that is useful and you're being intentional about it. And you're not just saying, here, do this thing. I'll give a quick example. For the app that we did, I like said, give me a landing page for the matrix.rb-sns.com. It's like, give me a nice little landing page. This is what I want. This is what the thing is. Um, Give me something that's like, got some pop and some polish and stuff like that. And it gave me a nice little thing. But then I go, I looked at it, I'm like, okay, well that sort of works. And we're going to use that for now because I was like, I need a homepage for this. And we talked about it some more and then actually sat down and had a RB consulting management powwow basically. And it came out, it's like, it's not like let's make it less of a word doc. Let's make it something that's got a little more, let's clean this up a little bit and like add something that gives it a little more humanity to it or something like that. And so I was like, yeah, as I thought about it and I started working with it and I started picking apart pieces of what the AI had given me. And I was like, well, let's change this. Let's do that. Move that over there. Change that there. Let's try this. Like swap this around. What if you do this? What if you do that? And so I was able to, it was rapid application development at that point because I was able to very quickly get stuff back and go, okay, well, I'm going to put this here. Oh, wait, I'm going to move that there. Let's move this over here. Oh, now this. And so the whole process was a lot of back and forth, but I ended up getting something better because I actually picked apart what I did and then actually walked through it that way. And I find that in the code reviews I've done for people where I can see huge sections of stuff. And I guess this will be like a side note, use AI enough to know when you're looking at AI. There are going to be markers all over the place. There are things that are going to let you know when you're looking at stuff, whether it's writing, whether it's code. I mean, I guess if it's one line of code, okay. But if it's a whole function or something, there's going to be things you're going to be like, this looks like AI. And just know it because then that's going to help you understand a little bit when you're looking at things and going, why would somebody do it? You're like, oh, AI did it. Um, so, walk through those things, like be very detailed about it. The time that it saves you in writing code, that means you can use that time to actually check the quality and verify it and do the updates and do the testing and things like that, which includes AI will help you immensely in the testing world. It is amazing how much you can get unit tests and things like that thrown together very quickly with UI to give you some sort of at least an outline. It's at least give you something that you can work with, and then you can start adding and subtracting and doing what you need to within those. But that more and more makes it like there's almost no excuse to not have some of these things in place because the things that are very tedious and time consuming, those are the things that are perfect for AI. I am sorry if this has been too tedious and time consuming. It's not perfect for AI because, well, I don't know. Maybe at some point we should take this stuff and tell AI just generate an episode and see what it does and see. We'll have a vote. Was the AI episode better than the real person episode? And if AI was better, then our work is done here. We'll just like crank out AI episodes for the rest of our life. I don't think that's going to happen because AI will not be able to answer your emails properly because I know you're going to shoot us one at info@developinor.com. You're going to let us know what you think. And we're going to be able to integrate that into our next round of topics and seasons, even as we move on that slow and steady march towards 1,000. And we've got like a year or something like that, I think, before we're going to hit that. So you don't have to worry too much. Um, Also, check us out on X at Developreneur. You can check us out. Developreneur.com is really where everything lives. You can leave us comments on any of our articles, any of our past episodes. And check us out. The Developreneur channel on YouTube has got the last four, I think, seasons now of the podcast is out there. And then before that, we have I think there's like 200 episodes of tutorials and mastermind type classes and mentoring presentations and just tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff. And actually, a lot of it is still pretty relevant. It is amazing how many like when we look at numbers, how often some of the stuff that we did years in like 5, 6, 7 years ago is still being checked out on a regular basis because it still has some, it's very valuable to whoever's, tracking through that problem of the day. That being said, I'm going to wrap this one up. Appreciate you and your time and all that you guys have done for us. And we're going to just continue to try to do for you as well. So go out there and have yourself a great day, great week, and we will talk to you next time. Bonus material. I think one of the bonuses we're probably going to have to come back around to the vibe coding. I think this was like too big a topic for one. Um, I think so. Sticking to like no code, low code. I'm just gonna throw one thing out. It's like because you mentioned, I think you mentioned here or maybe before you mentioned Figma. I have seen so much stuff that has been done in Figma, Canva, and some of those. And those are, as somebody that has zero, double zero artistic skills, those things are awesome. They've got so many great templates. They've got so many tools to help even the most incompetent artiste do something that looks nice. There's lots of, for me, I am one of those that firmly believes that the best designs are just stealing from all of the other designs and putting it together in your own little way. They give you so many good options and tools and things to make something that looks pretty good and do it in a fairly quick time frame. Um, so as far as like mock-ups and requirements and things like that, I think those are great starting points, but I would warn anybody that's doing Figma and they're saying like, okay, here's our Figma designs, that's our requirements, go. You're going to be missing, I think, a lot of stuff. There's a lot of functionality usually that's going to be behind the scenes, unless it's, as Michael alluded to, just a straight up static website where you're just doing some, here's our company and here's some pictures of people and products. That's great. But if you start saying, well, but now they're going to order products or they're going to be able to see reports and things like that, there's even like logins and administering user IDs and stuff like that, just the simplest stuff, there is more to it. And you're going to need to spend some time on the requirements for that. If you ever, and as always, actually, one of the things, info at Developer, you can use that. And if you have questions about it, let us know because we would love to give you some feedback on how you can do requirements better as well, because that is something that is very near and dear to our hearts, and because we end up suffering the problems when people don't get it right. Your thoughts, your bonus material.
Yeah, so I have a whole episode idea for testing around this because you briefly alluded to it, and I think we could really blow it up into a full testing discussion. But sticking to low code, no code, the tool I kept trying to think of was called Just in Mine.
Mhm.
Um, it's still around. The pricing has changed on it a little bit, so I don't use it as much, but it is great for prototyping. So if you need to just do wireframing, you can do that. You can then convert your wireframing with low code by actually going in and writing scripts behind the scenes to actually give it functionality. And then it actually now allows you to deploy your apps to a kind of a functioning demo kind of feature where you can actually deploy them and use them. With even a little bit of additional scripting, you can plug them into databases and things like that now. So it is kind of gone through the whole phases of here's no code, low code, and I think they've added some AI recently for Vibe, but don't hold me to that yet because I haven't really touched on the paid version of that, which of course uses the AI. But where I was going with this, with the testing side of things, is as we discussed with AI, have that discussion with AI. If you are writing code, but you don't know how to test your code, or you're literally just have no coding experience whatsoever, ask AI as you're building your applications or it's building your piece of code, follow up the question, how do I test this? Write me a test for this code that you just wrote me. And the funny thing is, you could actually have AI test itself. So you could take the code, drop it into your application, then you could take the test, drop it into your application, run the test to test the code, and does it work? If it doesn't work, one, you now have a way to run it through the debugger and actually figure out how what's going on and how it works. And two, you can then throw it back to AI and say, well, hey, that code and that test you gave me, they don't work together. Why? And then it will actually have to think through and figure out what's going on. Caveat to that though is sometimes AI is dumb and it will write a test that always passes. So you do have to understand testing enough, or at least coding enough to know when you're getting a dummy test. So just a little caveat there. But if you've never written tests, it's a great way to get started. It's a great way to kind of build your test suite quickly and at least get some checks and balances in place so that you know as you're adding to your code base if you break something. Because anytime you add one line of code, you potentially introduce three errors.
I will say that that is probably the funnest thing is having AI is like sending stuff back to AI and saying, okay, why doesn't this work this way? This is doing this. It shouldn't do that. And it's oh, so often it is also like, oh, you're right. This is what I forgot this, or oh, you gave me, and which is actually a very good learning experience because a lot of times it'll be like, oh, that's right, because you're dealing with this. And so now you know that this needs to be part of your conversation the next time around. Just like dealing with a very like an entry level employee, while you're bringing people in and you're training them up, there are going to be things where you're going to realize like, oh, they don't know this. I need to specify that to be clear. AI is very much the same way. And don't trust that just like anything else. Sometimes it'll forget that that's part of the context and you're going to have to bring yourself back around to it. And as you use it more, it will like, it'll blur context just like human beings do. I don't know how, like Michael and I have had so many conversations over the years where, especially when we get into technical stuff, where like he's talking about one window and I'm talking about another, and we start off on the same page, literally like the same screen, and then 5 minutes later, it's like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? That isn't even here. Like, oh yeah, I moved on, I moved to this, or oh, we talked about this, so I thought we were going on to this page. It's like, and it's the same kind of stuff you're going to have with AI. AI still is not smarter than most people. And so, and it's going to be at least as frustrating.
I have to say this. So years ago, when Google first came out, when search engines first started, the biggest thing that engineers had to figure out was how to Google, how to use these search engines. And the same can almost be said today for AI. You need to teach your junior developers, you need to teach people how to Google AI or how to talk to AI. You need to understand the buzzwords, the keywords, the uh, I guess, commands essentially to get AI to do what you need it to do. Same with Google. It's like if you actually type a minus in a search engine, and a lot of people don't know this, the next word you put after that minus is excluded from your searches. So you can actually do complex searches in Google, but today most people don't know that because they either rely on the AI search tools or the more general language now, where it's like, give me this, not this, and the AI searches automatically filter that out. But you can do all that in the search bar with just plus, minus, and some other commands.
Yeah, I think this is yeah, these are the tools that we're getting. This is like one of those like adoption phases of those tools that it is very valuable to understand how to use them best because that's going to start to differentiate everybody. I think there is some level of like everything else, like the script kiddies of 20 years ago, where they're just like, oh, okay, they know. And honestly, they're still there. There's people out there that are doing these high end NetSuite, Salesforce, Oracle implementations, and things like that, and they really don't understand what they're doing. We're going to see the same thing with AI, and so understanding how to leverage it, and that doesn't mean that you this doesn't mean that you know like the ins and out of large language models and how to train them and things like that. Although I highly recommend you at least get exposed to that to understand some of the tools that are out there and what they can do and how they, even if you don't really know how to use them enough because you may not go deep enough in whatever that vertical is. If you at least know what they are, it's going to help you immensely. So that being said, I think we've taken up enough of your time. I know we've taken up enough of ours. Uh, do appreciate the time that you've given us. We are going to come back. We actually, I think we're going to continue on this one for the next episode at least, because I think we've got more than a few things. I do think we have a topic of, I think a whole episode on just how like AI and testing or something like that would be that could be a really fun one is to figure out how to like get that much better AI with testing and documentation and even deployments and things like that. I think could be a really cool way to walk through a episode. Unfortunately, it may also be 2 or 3 episodes. That being said, as I said, I've taken up too much time already. Thank you so much. Have yourself a great day, and we will talk to you guys next time around.